During the First Carlist War, some rebels are lined up after the soldiers discover that they were carrying something hidden. A priest begins to give them the last rites, but the lieutenant interrupts him before reaching the third man. The soldiers squad the rebels and prepare to leave, when suddenly the third one gets up and attacks, while the priest manages to see a demon. The lieutenant watches as they stab the priest, tries to shoot the rebel but does no harm. The man throws a bayonet that wounds the lieutenant, then takes a hammer from his cart and crushes his head. 8 years later, Alfredo Ortiz arrives in a village in Alava. In the tavern, Faustino tries to sell the owner, Santi, a broken chain assuring that it belonged to Teodosio Degoni during his penance. Ortiz enters asking to rent a room, and Santi asks him why he is in the village. Ortiz replies that he needs to speak with the blacksmith. Faustino warns him that this man is dangerous, but Ortiz insists that he must deal with him over confidential matters. Then Santi calls his son Benito to take the suitcase to the room. Later, Ortiz approaches a wooden door covered with crosses and spikes, observes more crosses on the other side, and sees the blacksmith's house, Francisco Paxi, who strikes a sword in his forge until the hammer breaks and, enraged, slams his fist down onto the burning metal. The next day, the village gathers for mass. The priest, Don Mateo, complains that Ortiz, a government official, does not accompany them and warns that the devil walks among them. Meanwhile, Benito takes out a letter he stole from Ortiz's luggage, but Santi snatches it from him and upon reading it is left shocked. Afterwards, a girl with a scar on her face, Yuzu, prepares a picnic with her doll. She drinks the wine stolen from the church, but spits it out in disgust. A snake crawls onto her blanket, and she takes it affectionately, invites it to join her, and even offers it an apple. Suddenly, a stone strikes the snake. Benito and his friend celebrate for having saved her, but Yuzu insists that it was her friend. When they scold her for not going to mass, she replies that it is for fools. Benito insults her by reminding her that her mother is dead, and Yuzu defends herself with blows before running away. The boys chase her and corner her at Paxi's door. Benito steals the doll and, after receiving a punch, takes revenge by ripping off its head and throwing it into the blacksmith's land. The children hide when they see Paxi in the forest and share rumors that he killed his wife and feeds on children. With childish bravery, they throw stones at him, but when one hits him, they run away frightened. Paxi responds by throwing one back that hits Benito and captures him, although he manages to break free and escape. His mother, Ana, finds him with a bleeding nose, and he lies saying that he fell while looking for Yuzu. When she asks about the girl, he admits that they left her behind. Yuzu finally returns, and her guardian Blanca scolds her. Upon seeing the wine stain on the dress, Mateo pulls her ears for stealing from the church and warns her that she will go to hell, but the girl shouts that hell does not exist and that Blanca is not her real mother before running away. In the tavern, Ana reproaches Santi for not working, but he is showing the letter to Faustino and his friends Miguel, Lucas, and Nestor, who discover that Ortiz is looking for a shipment of gold. Ortiz appears and snatches the letter from them, threatening to report them, although Santi tries to calm him by offering him the room for free. Instead, Ortiz asks for their help with Paxi. Ana insists that Santi must work, so Miguel and the others offer to do it in exchange for canceling their debts with the tavern. Faustino recounts that the Tsar of Russia donated 12 pounds of gold to finance the siege of Bilbao, but it never reached its destination. According to the documents, that gold is in Paxi's hands, although Faustino warns that it is not wise to get involved with him, since he went mad after his wife's suicide. It is said that screams are heard in his house at night. Some believe it is her ghost or the devil himself. The next day, Ortiz orders Miguel, Lucas, and Nestor to inspect Paxi's house while he waits behind. Armed, they cautiously inspect it. Miguel knocks on the door demanding that he open it. Paxi shouts for them to leave, but Miguel threatens to enter by force. Finally, Paxi opens, but Lucas falls into a bear trap, and in the confusion, Paxi knocks Miguel down with his shield and faces Nestor, striking his arm with a hammer and throwing him to the ground. Miguel and Nestor flee, leaving Lucas behind, whom Paxi frees from the trap and orders to leave. However, the man stumbles and his head becomes caught in another trap. Meanwhile, some girls bother Yuzu, telling her that her mother is in hell for having hanged herself, so she screams in rage until they leave. In the kitchen, Matteo examines some chains that Faustino brought him when Yuzu enters. Blanca orders her to put wood on the fire and she obeys, touching the scar on her face while watching the flames. Suddenly, Matteo apologizes for being so harsh, but assures that he only wants to guide her along the right path and promises to be there for her. Yuzu asks him if those who hang themselves go to hell, and he answers that they do, because it is a mortal sin. The girl leaves saddened and leaves her doll in front of Paxi's door, swearing to recover the head. She ventures inside the land but flees when she sees Paxi coming out. She hides under a bridge and watches as he drags Lucas's body. Near her is the shovel Paxi is looking for, so she hides in a cave. There she discovers that the passage leads to the forge and hears noises behind a closed door, where she sees a cage with a boy inside. She tries not to scream when he begs her for help, showing a cross-shaped scar that Paxi made on him. He tells her that the key is on the blacksmith's belt, but Yuzu is afraid to get close. Hearing footsteps, she hides. Paxi checks the cage and then drinks in another room, looking at a broken rope hanging from the beams. When he falls asleep, the boy insists and Yuzu gathers her courage, steals the keys and frees him. The boy takes a pitchfork and immediately transforms into a demon that looms over Paxi. He wakes up, manages to make him drop the weapon, and the demon disappears, although it charges at him again. Paxi drives an iron bar into its face and the creature flees screaming. Yuzu tries to escape, but twists her ankle. The demon captures her and uses her as a hostage, knocking a shelf onto Paxi, although he manages to free himself and strikes it on the horn, leaving it stunned. Yuzu is knocked unconscious when she falls against a rock, and Paxi picks her up in his arms. Benito, who is spying on them, sees how the blacksmith takes her away. That night, Santi tends to Miguel and Nestor, when Benito arrives telling that Paxi took Yuzu, and that he also saw the devil. Ortiz urges the men to rescue her, and gives them official permission to use any means. Yuzu wakes up in a room and watches as the demon threatens Paxi, who torments it with a crucifix. The creature taunts him by reminding him of the pact they made, and that thanks to it, he was able to return home with his wife. Paxi replies that he never wanted to see her that way, but the demon blames him for having led her into another man's arms. Paxi enters Yuzu's room and returns the doll's head to her. Then he bandages her ankle with a handkerchief that belonged to her mother. He reveals that the demon is called Sarto. It mocks him, saying that his wife sends her regards from hell, but Paxi threatens it with an iron bar. Yuzu imitates him and also pokes it, accusing it of lying. Then Paxi pours out a jar of chickpeas, forcing the demon to count them, and every time it moves them, it has to start over. The girl has fun imitating the game and increasing the torment. Afterwards, Paxi shows her a blessed bell whose sound deafens the creature. Yuzu rings it enthusiastically while Sarto curses humans, accusing Paxi of feeling no guilt even for what he did to his wife. Paxi asks Yuzu to leave, but before that she asks Sarto if he has seen her mother, remembering that she hanged herself after giving birth to her. The demon confirms that she is probably in hell. The girl asks if there is any way to rescue her, but he laughs, assuring that there is no way out from there. Paxi strikes the cage with the hammer and tells Yuzu not to believe him, because Sarto always lies. Then he leads her back to the village. When crossing the gate, they meet the villagers advancing toward them. Matteo demands that Paxi release the girl, and he hands her over. Blanca receives her, asking what he did to her, but Yuzu assures that she is fine. Then Miguel accuses Paxi of having killed Lucas, and, despite him denying it, saying it was an accident, the men surround and attack him. Yuzu shouts for them to stop while Paxi begs for mercy, but Matteo advises him not to resist. The men tie him up, and Ortiz announces that he will search his house. As he cannot do it alone, Santi convinces the others to accompany him. While the villagers enter, Matteo recounts that Paxi brought Yuzu when she was a baby to the church, along with the bell he had forged. He confessed that after returning from the war after 2 years, he found his wife mate with a child that was not his, since she believed he had died and took a lover. Filled with rage, Paxi held the baby over the fire, causing the scar. The lover tried to stop him, but Paxi killed him. Then Mate, desperate, hanged herself. Ortiz orders the men to bring Paxi inside the house. Miguel discovers Sardel in his cage and steps back astonished, alerting the others. Mateo, incredulous, thanks God for having living proof of the existence of heaven and hell and plans to take the demon to the Vatican, while Sardel mocks him, saying that Mateo could become pope. Ortiz asks the others to wait outside, but Mateo insists that this is now a matter of the church. Miguel strikes him and forces Santi to leave with him. Outside, both share that there is a demon inside, alarming the others, and Mateo warns that Ortiz might free it, so Santi urges the men to go in. Inside, Ortiz orders Miguel and Nestor to leave the demon and tie up Paxi. They interrogate him about the gold, but he only groans, and when Miguel approaches, Paxi bites his ear. Sarto laughs as he watches. Ortiz calmly walks toward the demon, not noticing that Yuzu has returned. Sardel offers to reveal the location of the gold in exchange for his freedom, but Ortiz mocks him. As he approaches, Sardel recognizes Ortiz as Alastair, his superior. He believes that Alastair will save him, but he clarifies that he has come for Paxi's soul, pointing out that Sardel was demoted for negligence, and reprimands him for revealing his form to humans and intervening in their lives. The demon begs for another chance, but Alastair says that the decision is irreversible. Alastair watches the men beating Paxi and is amused to see that they follow orders without knowing who he is. He orders that Paxi be hanged. Miguel protests, saying that he has not yet revealed where the gold is, but Alastair shows his demonic eyes and they obey. Unable to open the door, the villagers throw lanterns to set fire to the house and the demon. Sardel, seeing Yuzu, offers to take care of her and her mother in hell if she frees him. He tells her to ring the bell while he distracts the others. Yuzu takes the bell just as the fire spreads, harming both demons. The pain forces Alastair to show his true face, and Miguel and Nestor release Paxi and shoot him in the head. The villagers finally open the door. Yuzu frees the unconscious Paxi and also Sardel. Mateo arrives just as he escapes, apologizing to Yuzu and promising not to return to hell. The villagers, shocked by seeing the demon, attack him when he becomes trapped again in a trap. Yuzu runs into Mateo's arms, who slaps her for freeing Sardel. Knowing that she will never be accepted, she calmly walks toward Alastair and asks him to take her to her mother, agreeing to give her soul in exchange. Alastair transforms into his demonic form, and Yuzu finally feels fear. He stabs her with a pitchfork just as Paxi wakes up and carries her. Mateo explains that Alastair took her to hell. Paxi demands that Sardel take him to save her, but he refuses, reminding him that he owes Yuzu for having freed him. Sardel agrees to help Paxi, but he needs the church bell. Mateo lends it to him, and Faustino recognizes on it the emblem of the Carlist gold, understanding that it was always in the church. Miguel tries to take advantage of it to keep the gold, but Santi strikes him. Paxi frees Sardel, who stabs him. When he opens his eyes, Paxi finds himself surrounded by damned souls and other demons dragging them toward the burning gates of hell. He carries a heavy sack and finds Yuzu among the crowd, embracing her, while demons surround him. He tells Yuzu to look for Sardel while he defends the passage. Alastair arrives, driving away the other demons, and orders Paxi to enter, but he takes out a jar of chickpeas and asks him to count them. Alastair tries to snatch it, but Yuzu opens the jar and throws the chickpeas, distracting the demon and allowing the gates of hell to begin to close. Paxi approaches Yuzu and Sardel, who covers his eyes so as not to count the chickpeas. He hugs Yuzu and asks Sardel to return her to the living while he stays behind, promising to take care of her mother. Yuzu takes Sardel's hand and watches as Paxi rings the church bell against Alastair. She wakes up in Blanca's arms while Sardel tells the villagers that Yuzu is a saint and that hell does not want her, saying goodbye to everyone. Benito approaches with the repaired doll. In the forest, Sardel transforms into a young man, collapses in front of a carriage, and its rider gives him a ride, asking him to tell the story of the blacksmith. In hell, Paxi forces the doors and enters carrying the church bell.